Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Upper Tier Podcast. And joining me tonight for a special episode, a kind of a return episode, Ian, the Dynamo Kelly. How are you, my friend?
How are you? It is my return. It's been a minute, hasn't it?
It certainly has, to say the least.
Yeah.
When's the last time we were on?
I don't know. I was looking at that today when we agreed that we'd do it. You know, your people talk to my people kind of thing. And I was kind of going, Jesus, it's definitely been over. Must be. Well, I wouldn't say it's been a year because I've been in this new house just coming up to 6 months. So it's definitely the best part of 6 months, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. I think the last one we were on, you were in the old house, weren't you?
I done one with you from here. Yeah. So I'd say it's about 5.5, 6 months. Yeah. As you can see, the haircuts changed. I've kind of gone for the Adam Copeland look. It's almost mulletish. You are?
Do you want to be doing that?
I don't know. I'm just fucking with people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have a decent show lined up tonight. We're going to get Ian, of course, is coming on. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the footballing stuff. We're going to talk a little bit of wrestling. That's why we called it a mixed bag. It was just an add-on show that I was going to do tonight because I didn't get to do a show myself. But Ian said he'd come on. It's great to have him on and stuff like that. So we'll be talking about plenty of stuff, getting Ian's thoughts, especially on his own club, Chelsea, at the moment. Heavily in the news this week for all sorts of reasons. So we'll see, can we make some sense of all that stuff that's going on there. So if you could, folks, make sure you're subscribing to the channel, hit the bell notification button and drop a like on the video, of course. Sean is in the chat, as always. How are we, Sean? Hooray, extra podcast and Dynamo return. Hope you're both keeping well. Henry's in there as well. What's the crack, Noel? Can't stay. I have a live to do about the Liverpool fixtures. Enjoy your stream. Appreciate it, Henry. Cheers, pal. And Sean's back in. 10 minutes late, not good enough, lads. I'd be ashamed if you were my sons. Don't worry about it, Sean. It was all my fault. I got new sound stuff today, and I'm trying to figure it out, as they say.
Sean, that extra 10 minutes was worth the wait to see the return of my beautiful face. So, you know, be grateful.
And a bonus episode.
So be grateful, my friend. Be grateful.
Absolutely. We're going to talk a bit of boxing as well, of course, because we have you on.
My favourite subject.
You've got some strong views on it and stuff like that. So we'll be talking a bit about Fury Isaac and that cut over the eye. We'll be talking about Joshua Spark and Ngannou and what does that mean, and maybe were we all on the Ngannou hype train and maybe we shouldn't have been. Maybe just Fury didn't prepare for it properly. Who knows? John says I agree. So yeah, we're going to go through a few things anyway. So we'll start. Huge drama today about this.
Oof.
Changed the flag on the England jersey. And people are absolutely losing their shit about it. What was your thoughts on that?
It's funny, actually. I don't know. Lee Gunner is a friend of the channel, isn't he?
Yeah, Lee comes on. Yeah, no, he doesn't come on. I follow Lee and stuff like that. But yeah,
and I know he's been on with Morris. Shout out to Morris as well. Yeah. But I found myself very, very impressed with Lee Gunner. I think he's even though he's a gooner, I like his takes on football. He does give quite a neutral view on certain things, which we'll talk about later, even when it pertains to my club. But I'm sure you and me know, we probably can't say much on this platform. Sure, me and you know, or you and I know, the deeper meaning behind this, and it is kind of a wokey thing. That's what a few people have come out today. It's represents a certain flag and stuff like that, and so I've seen so many different opposing views on it. Today, Lee Gunner, he went on a mad one earlier, actually, regarding it. But if you take away all the politics side of it, because as we said, it's not this type of show, we don't need to get into the politics of it. However, it's just one of those things, isn't it? Once you kind of try and put like a little hidden message or something into something like this, it's just going to blow a gasket, you know? It's like, was it necessary? I don't know. I mean, I don't have a pony in the race, neither do you, Noel. But I suppose we're two guys giving views on how people feel, and I suppose from my British friends and your British friends and our compatriots, I can kind of see why it irks them quite a bit, because it's not really a necessary change. You know what I mean?
Well, I think, from my point of view, I believe the flag of your country is sacred and should never
Yeah,
be touched. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like, I can't imagine, the boys going out tomorrow against Belgium and the Ireland flag on the back of it being blue, red, and orange or something like that, or blue, red,
yeah,
and purple or something like that. And I think there would be uproar because it would change the whole narrative of the
yeah.
country. And I think this is the same thing here. And I know some people will say, "Oh, well, if you don't like it, just don't buy the jersey." But that's all well and good. But we've seen players today. Was it today or yesterday? They were playing the under 21s match and they were wearing their collars up not to show it and all and stuff like that. So clearly the
Yeah.
players aren't too
I
happy
think
about
I think it's the I think it's the deeper woke message behind it. I think that's what people are really annoyed about it. Like, stop bringing politics into sports and football and stuff like that. That was the general consensus I got from X today, and I concur with that. I think sports and stuff like that should be left alone. But I also do believe what you said to be true is that that, like, flags are sacred. I mean, if they brought any kind of different colors into the Irish situation, we would be in we would be in uproar also. So I definitely sympathise with. Maybe sympathise is the wrong word, because I mean, nobody's died, thankfully, but I can kind of empathise with people's feelings about it.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of who would have done the due diligence on it, because I presume when Nike produce a new kit, there is some sort of a sign off for it, probably both at the Football Federation pertaining
yeah,
to the jersey, but also probably there must be some sort of a sign off in terms of maybe UEFA and FIFA as well, that it's passed to be used in these tournaments or whatever it is. And I just think messing with a flag, I just think it's a bit too much for me, really. You know what I mean? I'm not interested in the message or anything like that. That's not me. I mean, we already have guys wearing armbands and captain's armbands and laces, and the messages out
exactly.
there. Messages out there in many different guises and many different forms.
That's it. You're either into it or you're not, and that's your own personal preference. It's not for anyone to tell you that your personal preference is wrong or not. And as we say, it's a different kind of platform. But yeah, I think imposing it, and imposing is the right word, is the wrong way to go about it, and you can see why people are kind of up in arms about it, because it's something that was kind of forced upon their national jersey. That wasn't necessary, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just don't think you should mess ever with a country's
No,
flag and stuff like that. I mean, we see the uproar that you get when flags are burned and when flags are, disgraced and all that kind of stuff. Now, regardless of the country, regardless of your political view or whatever else it is, you know what I mean, or this whole woke situation or whatever it is, I don't think you should mess with the flag of a country.
no, no.
I don't think that's the case, and I think
Shout
just
out to Morris as well, by the way. Sorry, I just saw the message there.
absolutely. Um, Unless they did it for Pride Month or something. It's not that, but even Pride Month, I don't think you should mess with the flag of a country, because there's a Pride flag. These different situations all have their own flags, and if you want to display that flag, that's a matter of a personal choice.
Yeah,
Um,
I
but
agree.
the actual flag of a country, the identity of a country, is a bit weird that they mess with it. I'd say you're happy it's an international break, he says, we will both end up the same trophies, none. Good
Yeah.
Lord. Course, you should be confident. Arsenal are flying at the moment. How come you go outside? How could you go outside with that face paint? That's one that was done at home, isn't it? That ain't professional. That's for
No,
sure. I'm not against the message at all, but there's a way to get the message across without fixing what isn't broken. Absolutely. We already do it. We already have the captain's armband. We already have the laces that are worn. Plenty of messages go out there about acceptance in those areas and stuff like that. It doesn't need to be going near the actual country. Thanks, Daz. You too. Morris, Jericho, Brazil flag. He loves it.
Fuck Chris Jericho. Feck Chris Jericho, sorry.
Staying with the international feel at the moment. Morris may not like this. Ben White was being called up to the England squad there the other day and informed Edu that he wouldn't be available for the international break. Hasn't been much clarification as to why. According to Southgate, there's no issue, but we know there was an issue back in camp when he had a bit of a falling out with Steve Holland, the assistant, and it led to him leaving the camp during the last tournament. And since then, he hasn't really been available for international. He's playing really, really well this season. You could argue probably one of the best right backs in the league at the moment on form. What did you make of this? Can you see there's two sides to this? We know he's come out and had interviews saying that he's not necessarily a football fan or a connoisseur of football. It's his job. He does his job and then he goes home. He likes spending time with his family. Strangely enough, the lad comes across quite introverted, even though when you see him and you see his appearance, he looks quite extroverted. But what did you make of this? Can you see both sides of this? He's probably thinking as well, like, have 2 weeks here where I can recover. I can have a bit of downtime with my family. The likelihood is I may not feature in the up and coming tournament because if Reece James is fit by then, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Kyle Walker, where is he in the pecking order? Is he second? Is he third? Is he fourth? Is he going to see any football? And maybe at the moment the current setup just isn't for him. Give me your thoughts on it when you heard about it.
It's a hard one because I've seen obviously rival fans again on X saying that he kind of got his feelings hurt by some of the hierarchy of the England camp a while back with those comments, and they didn't appreciate it. And I've seen like Joey Barton and other players come out and say, well, it's not really good enough. It's a hard one to tell because, I mean, we don't know the man. So we don't know if his comments are genuine, that he doesn't really care about football that much. He just happens to be good at it. And so he does it for his living. I mean, the Arsenal fans are happy enough with the form that he's in, But then again, if you weren't in form and you were coming out with those sort of comments, it might be a different reaction, dare I say. But look, I mean, I think if his views are that strong, then why not come out and just say, look, I play club football and that's it. I want to retire from international football. It's not for me. I think there's something deeper than that. Because
maybe he's waiting for a change of setup to come back into the fold.
Possibly. Very, very possible. Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's a unique looking character, all right, because he doesn't look, humble comments don't match the appearance, if that makes sense. And that's not a knock on the guy. That's just, we've seen all the jokes and the memes. He looks like Pat Butcher coming out of a salon at times, like, but that's like whatever you're into, that makes him happy. That's grand, but I don't know. I think there's something a bit deeper than it. Yeah, I think you may have hit the nail on the head there. That it could be something to do with a change of setup, and there's been a bit of a fallout there with certain coaches, not necessarily the manager, because obviously Southgate has spoken very highly about him and kind of didn't close the door or anything like that. Where some managers would say, do you know what, sayonara, but I'd rather have to eat like Nobby Styles than a cat slayer. But yeah, like, look, I suppose it's his choice, all right. But I certainly wouldn't be calling him up again if I was anyone in England, and I would close the door on him forever. Personally, if I was high up in the FA, I would just say, right, we're going to make the decision for you, kid. You don't get to wear the three lines ever again. See you later.
I suppose the other side of it as well is, if there has been a falling out and the guy feels like he has been wrong, then there's a case there for saying, look, I don't want to go into camp with you guys because it ain't going to end well, and it's just going to end up in more hassle. So I'm trying to avoid that. I don't want to go in there and everything that comes out of the England camp gets destabilized because it becomes all about me and the shift between me and England management and all that kind of stuff. I'd rather just back out now, not be involved, and let England go do their thing and be in the best possible case or best possible space to potentially go on and win that championship.
Yeah.
And maybe it's that kind of thinking, or maybe he's looking at it and he's going, look, there's no point in me playing in these friendlies so Southgate can have a look at me because I've no intentions of going to the tournament to be away from my family for over a month to sit on a bench. And it could
I disagree with that as well, though. If I don't mean to disagree with your point,
yeah.
I mean I disagree with that attitude. I mean, I think if you're in football, and that's kind of what's lost with the snowflake generation, in my opinion. You know, the highest honor ever was playing for your country. I don't care what anyone says; it really is, because it shows that you're one of the elite few in a population, in England's case, of what, 70 plus million, and you are one of three, you know, that can possibly represent your country in a major tournament, or even in a friendly, doesn't matter. So I don't know. I think the lad's attitude is poor, if I'm being honest. Because at one point he's coming out, I'm honest, I don't like my football, blah blah blah. But there's something underlying here that he's not being honest about also. But in the same token,
the thing about the football, he said this a while ago.
It was about 2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, so he was fairly honest in that so far as. But I mean, Aaron Ramsdale has come out, who's his teammate. Obviously, has come out and said he's a great guy. There's no issue. He's the life and soul at times of the team and stuff like that.
He's his teammate, though, isn't he? You know, you're not gonna.
He is, yeah, but it's probably not a good look if you're a goalkeeper who's not getting much game time this season, obviously at Arsenal, and you're gone into the England squad where we know it's tough to get game time in there and goals as well, unless there's an injury, because Pickford tends to be the number one choice.
Yeah.
And you've had a manager that's come out and said that there's no issue and that the door is open. And your teammate has come out and said, I don't want to be made available for selection. It's probably not a good look for Ramsdale to be going batting for his teammate at a time where he's trying to break into playing for England.
No.
So I don't think he has any reason to back up his teammate insofar as, you know, make up a kind of story. And I don't see, like, you never hear, there doesn't be a whole lot of sort of rift coming out of the Arsenal camp and stuff like that. They seem to be quite together at the moment this season. So there's no reason not to believe it, but it's certainly an interesting one. But I suppose when you said there that highest honor of playing for your country, it's the highest honor of even representing your country, being part of that squad.
The setup alone, yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be very interesting going forward. Let's take some comments. Romy One Kenobi is in. He says, I'm sure when these players see Waistcoat Merchant walk onto the training ground, their motivation drops. He could be potentially the future Man United manager.
Looks like he will be 3-1.
What's the topic? The topic is a mixed bag tonight, Eno. We're going to be talking football, wrestling, and boxing. Romy One Kenobi in. I haven't watched England in years. My family watches them. I'd rather watch reruns of AEW. Love it.
I like this guy.
Yeah. He's a Real Madrid fan.
I like him even more so.
Hopping in for a hot tag. There you go. So I mean, we'll keep an eye on and see how it all evolves and stuff like that. These two guys have been appointed at Liverpool. So we have a new director of football and we have a new CEO overlooking the new Liverpool era, if you want, post-Klopp. And Michael Edwards has been tasked as well with finding clubs to become part of the FSG group, with everything that's going on, obviously, with FFP and, you know, profit and sustainability and all that kind of stuff. It looks like a lot of clubs are going to go down the route of having partner clubs and stuff like that, which kind of makes sense. But it's a weird way. What do you think the biggest task for these boys is going forward with Klopp leaving the building?
Well, it's establishing the manager first and foremost. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious, isn't it? Edwards is a genius. I mean, you know, I can say that as a Chelsea fan. I can say that. I mean, the fact that everyone was after him tells you how high his stock is. he's brought this guy in, someone that he trusts, and I think a 2 to 3 man partnership is perfect, especially when there's status involved, not when it's a case that you've co-sporting directors, or which we'll probably get onto later, or anything like that. You need a senior, a below, and a below. Do you know what I mean? And you work in tandem. So I think making Edwards the CEO of football operations makes sense. Yeah, I mean it does. To give you a long-winded answer, I think that is kind of the future of top clubs. They will kind of tend to buy over maybe smaller clubs in European areas and South American areas and America, and we'll probably see it in Asia and stuff like that. We've seen it with the City Group. We're seeing it with the Blue Co group with Chelsea now at the moment. It looks like Chelsea are close to possibly taking over Sporting Lisbon and Boca Juniors in the summer as well. So I mean, it's just another avenue, I suppose. Look, I mean, I don't see any issue with it, because it's not really sports washing, because you're technically still paying fees for players and keeping the smaller club, if you want to use that terminology, the smaller club going and bringing in revenue to them. So I think to answer your question, the biggest challenge for them will be to get the manager in, which I personally do believe it will be Xabi Alonso. But it's then a case of you're getting big money, of course, for Salah, and then potentially whoever else may leave, or whoever, because Xabi Alonso's his tactics are much different to Jurgen Klopp in a lot of ways. Having watched a bit of Leverkusen, they still play attacking football, but certain players might not fit his kind of his agenda, So it's a case of getting the players in early, I think, getting the manager in early, getting that sewn up, and kind of building upon what Klopp has left. Because judging by your season so far, you've been left in a very, and I suppose you can't give all the credit to Klopp, because the club is obviously run very well from top to bottom, in the sense that the academy players are coming up and they know exactly. It was a quick one, a little segue. I was looking at something very, very interesting. If you look at Liverpool, their youth teams from under 21s to under 18s all the way down, they play in the same system that Klopp implements, which I think is so important, because it's all well and good. I remember a time where I remember my own club, Chelsea, had Antonio Conte was the manager. Jody Morris, as you recall, he'd won a couple of under 21 European Champions Leagues, under 18, sorry. And he also was playing the same system as Conte. That's when you saw the likes of Reece James come through, and Loftus-Cheek and players like that, and starting to really get their shot. I think it's so important. What's the point in having different systems down at the youth level? Because the whole idea is that you're trying to create a pathway for these players to fit in seamlessly into the first team. And to be honest with you, I don't think I think Edwards is just coming back to fulfill the good work that he's already done. To be honest with you, I don't think there's any challenge involved, really.
Yeah, it's a difficult one as well when you look at it, because obviously there's no mistake, and there was issues there with Klopp back in the day in terms of player selections and stuff like that. So kind of maybe it was more appealing to him to come back, knowing that Jurgen was leaving the building.
Yes.
And maybe as the CEO, he would have the huge input on the manager selection as well. So you're getting that kind of, as you said, that synergy. Because obviously Richard Hughes coming in, who's a very good friend of Michael Edwards. Now, very good friends don't always work very well together if there's coming together or whatever. But you would hope that they're kind of the thinking and the mentality is the same. But I think you're right about the academy. Like Austin said one time, you take a cog out of the wheel, put a new cog in, and the wheel keeps spinning. And that's kind of what you're sort of seeing now with teams when they do bring in youth players. They fit in seamlessly, understand the tactics, the way of playing, the culture, the whole thing. So the transition up it's quite seamless. The only thing they have to get used to probably is maybe the speed and the physicality, and that comes in time with experience. Um, but yeah, I think it's an interesting parallel here at the moment at Liverpool, and certainly post Klopp, it's going to be interesting. I think most people are expecting a massive fall off, but whether that happens or not,
I
remain
don't.
to
I
be seen.
don't. I don't. I
Yeah,
think Javi Alonso will come in and build on. I think he'll actually come in and build on it, maybe even more. There's something special about the guy. You don't just usurp Bayern that easily. And we can talk about how Tuchel may have gone in, and the Chelsea owners were proven right with Tuchel and stuff like that. And we can joke about that, but it's still Bayern Munich. They still have certain players in the system. We do that a lot, don't we? And the media does that a lot. It's like, well, there must be a reason why this team is up there and that team is down there. It can also be a case of that other team just happens to be playing really well. And that is what's happened in the case of Bayer Leverkusen. They have a system and a manager that is just knows what he wants, knows what he wants from his team. His players know what he wants from them. And therefore, it kind of seems like a match made in heaven. Like you're bringing a Liverpool legend in, So Klopp's a Liverpool legend as a manager. You're bringing in a Liverpool legend that you probably thought you were going to get with Gerrard a couple of seasons ago, but you've got the next best thing in Javi Alonso, who is a Liverpool man, and you've got the academy absolutely steady, absolutely steady. And you've got that Salah money coming in, and I'm sure there'll be money, elsewhere too because of the league positioning. And I know there was no Champions League this year, but then you'll have Champions League money from next year as well, so you can kind of be writing off future depths if they play it smart. And Edwards is quite a smart man, so yeah, I think it's tailor made to be a success in my opinion. I think Liverpool are probably the one club at the tippy top that have their house in order.
Well, they have the new training facility is state of the art. They've redefined the ground, so a lot of that building blocks for success is there.
Yeah.
But there was an article that came out as well talking about these two boys and Ryan Gravenberch as well, and they weren't. There's a little bit of unrest there at the moment because
I heard something about Nunes as well. Yeah, apparently
Nunes and Dominic Szoboszlai as well, that they're not happy, because it's as if part of the reason they signed, a big part of it obviously was Jurgen Klopp. And although senior players in there, the likes of Van Dijk and Trent and Robbo and players like that, had a kind of an inkling that he might go this year. I think when the boys were signing, that wasn't in the conversation. And they feel like maybe they've been sold maybe a different bill of goods, that maybe a big part of their decision in signing for Liverpool was Jurgen Klopp was the manager and they expected him to be here. And now that he's leaving, they're expressing concerns. And now it's just a story that came out, but it's strange. All these stories tend to come out during an international break, don't they? They seem kind of
yeah. I mean, I think with Nunes, I know he's kind of come into a bit of form for you guys and stuff like that. But he always has potential to be hit and miss. Until he's constantly consistent, then he hasn't really done it for you. I was kind of looking at. I mean, I don't think that would probably break Javi Alonso's heart too much. You know what I mean? His striker that's playing with Leverkusen, like Austin said, I don't remember any of the words to his songs right now, but I think if it's two players and they feel that they've been sold a bill of goods, look, okay, either accept the new ways or get out. It's simple, because you're going to get good money for both of them anyway. I think more so Nunes would probably be the one that looks like he would kick up more of a storm than Szoboszlai. But you could see Darwin Nunes just to play fantasy football for a while. You could just see him one day under the ego Simeone somewhere, couldn't you?
Mm. Yeah, no, it's one of those things where I think I wonder had FSG been working at bringing Michael Edwards back in, and part of the reason that he exited the building was the amount of power that was afforded to Jurgen and his team in terms of player selection and all that kind of stuff.
And how do you feel about that as a fan?
But see, I don't like it's hard to argue with Michael Edwards' record because remember, I think when Klopp at the time wanted Goretzka and Royce, I think it was, wasn't it? And he
Yeah.
ended up being overpowered, and they ended up getting Mane and Salah. So it's hard to argue.
Yeah.
And sometimes in that area, like if you think about Eric Ten Hag at Man United, sometimes managers need protecting from themselves and their own blinkered kind of decisions. And I certainly wouldn't have envisaged a situation where Jurgen Klopp would be happy to be at Liverpool, surrendering that kind of power that he had back to Michael Edwards. So I wonder, with Klopp announcing that he was going, was part of it that he knew Edwards was coming back in as the CEO, and did that drive the decision potentially? I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Moment.
Yeah, cool. Fire away. Yep, fire away. I'll get chatting there. Get your door there if you need to. Go on.
Yeah, just someone. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, no, go on. Go ahead. But yeah, just while Ian's answering the door there, let us know in the chat. We'll catch up in the chat as well. Don't worry, John. I'll ask him about the Chelsea stuff as well. Edwards got the minerals. The Red Sox need him and scouting as well. They do indeed. Great to see you, bro, Ian. Noel, what's this I'm hearing about Perez monitoring Trent? Yeah, I had a slide for it because there's talk of Garnacho as well to Barca. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think Trent came out in an interview today, Romy Kenobi, and he says the only way that would happen is through FIFA. So I don't see it happening. I'd be surprised if it did. Trent's a Liverpool boy through and through and stuff like that. It'd be, things that have to get really bad at Liverpool, I would imagine. And he has a contract renewal coming up as well, so I'm sure he'll be well looked after. And is out for the tag, absolutely. Klopp is a legend. He is a legend. Use eye for a player is underrated. He's seen a talent in an Ake that Chelsea didn't. Yeah, absolutely. He's and look, he's been around Edwards long enough now as well to understand what's needed. So I don't see any problem there at all.
I'm back.
Cool. Let's change it. I was just talking there about Romy Kenobi was mentioning that Real Madrid were keeping an eye on Trent. I don't see Trent going anywhere.
No, I don't. No,
I don't see him going unless things got very sour at Liverpool or the contract negotiations were poor that are coming up. But even so, I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised at any stage in Trent's career that I see him in anything other than a Liverpool shirt. Who knows?
Yeah, it's a quick one there. Just a little moral lesson to everybody. When there's a knock at the door and it's a takeaway man that's found the wrong house, don't be an asshole and take the food in anyway because you think you've got one up over people. Send them in the right direction and go on about your day. Just thought I'd let them know.
I don't know whether the Jack Russell would be happy with that decision, no?
No, she won't be happy. Millie won't. Millie's never happy unless she's sitting here beside me anyway. So.
Let's change it up and let's talk about Chelsea and Man City and Forest and Everton and all this stuff that's coming out. John had a question for you there as well. Welcome, John. He says, "Hi, do you think Morton or Carvalho has a future at the club, or will they be sold?" I would love to see Carvalho get an opportunity. He was sensational for Fulham in the Championship, and I think we did wrong by him, to be honest. I think we bought a player that plays in a position that we don't play as a formation. And I don't like to think that we took a player like that, a young lad like that, who was absolutely flying, and just took him into money, ball him up or whatever it is. That would be a bit sour with me.
Goes back to my point, doesn't it? About a new manager can come in with fresh ideas and may not, Xabi Alonso isn't going to come in and try and recreate, Klopp 2.0. Now, of course, he's going to want the success, yeah, but I mean, he's not going to match him tactics wise. So there could very well be an opportunity for those players that have been doing well out on loan.
Yeah, I think Tyler as well. I think has personally could have a big future as well. Tyler was doing really well till he got injured, and then he came back and then he went out on loan. But he was showing shades of a really tidy box to box midfielder as well. So we'll see what happens with both of them. Yeah, thanks for that, John. Appreciate it. Let's see. Bowley have another problem on his hands at the LA Dodgers. Ohtani's translator is getting done for money theft.
But that's not really Bowley's problem because he's only a 20% stakeholder in LA Dodgers. So
yeah, I'd imagine that's the least of his worries.
Yeah.
So Buzz Nunes, you're welcome to the Bernabeu if you're not. Absolutely. What have you made of this? We don't need to regurgitate.
We have to go to his next comment actually because I want to address that there. I've just seen that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Because it's just not true. It's just made up wherever that was read or heard. It's just actually not true. That he's taking 20 million a year as chairman. It's
I'd like to preface that as well by saying if I'm of the level of a Todd Bowley and the wealth of a Chelsea and DraftKings and all that kind of stuff and all, I'd expect to be pulling 20 mil as a wage. I don't think that's anyway ridiculous. At his level.
No, but he's definitely not on that money. In fairness, I know that for a fact.
Yeah, some might argue, well, he hasn't done a great job, so would he deserve that? That's a different conversation.
And we'll get into that.
Let's park City and the 115 charges because that's obviously going to have to take its course in over whatever level of time it's going to take.
I don't like the wording you used there, though. It's no slight on you, but it seems to be just a given that we have to let it take its course. There's really no course for it to take. It should be a matter of urgency, the highest urgency.
Yeah, but you know what the issue is? The issue is they're not participating, so it has to go through the legal process. That's the issue. It's okay. Different than you boys have come along and you've said, look, we have unearthed these things, and you've handed them over to the authorities. Forest also worked with the Premier League. Everton also worked with the Premier League. So they've given in their accounts. They've given in their information of that. These boys are saying, get lost, you ain't saying nothing, and we'll see you in court.
Yeah. That's fair.
It's a slightly different process, you know.
It is. It's a red flag, though, isn't it?
It is. Well, potentially it could be, absolutely. We obviously won't know until the
Give us more time so we can cook up something fucking fishy because could go from 115 charges to okay, let's double that because you've potentially fucking messed around with evidence that is there. I mean, look, even the law of averages, we may as well go with City first. I don't know, it's your show, but I just find it ironic that you've got a moron on TalkSport, which is where all of this has come out. And shout out to League Owner because a proper, sensible football fan who isn't just an Arsenal fan, because everyone knows the rivalry that Chelsea and Arsenal have, actually made a very balanced opinion. I don't know whether you saw the video.
I did.
And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Because I'm a member of the Chelsea Supporters Trust, so I generally have an idea of what's going on financial wise because they have to release it to us. Now the problem is that it's only in drips and drabs. That is the problem. But I thought Lee's point on the fact that these guys may be very silly in terms of their transfer dealings and whatever. There's so many stones we can throw at them. But being bad businessmen is definitely not a hill that you want to die on when it comes to these guys as an opposing fan. I think we'd all be in agreement there. Yeah. So yeah, ask me a question. Sorry.
Yeah. So let's we've seen what's happened with Everton. Yeah, they got it reduced down to 6 from 10. We've seen what's happened with Forest. They got a 4-point deduction. Obviously, there's talk back and forward about that. Was it the right punishment? How did it work out? There's talk Everton is probably due another deduction for more breaches. Was supposed to be coming this week or next week or something like that. So I don't know if that's happening or not.
Yeah.
But in terms of Chelsea and what you see there at the moment, and you've been quite vocal on our WhatsApp group. You're probably on our WhatsApp group, probably the most vocal about your club in terms of your disdain at how you've seen things evolve and stuff like that. No? Which is refreshing to see. And I said it to you, I think I posted something last week or the week before, giving you your flowers about that situation. But what's your overall view there at the moment? I mean, there's talk coming out of this 200 million black hole. There's talk coming out about points deductions, relegation, expulsion from the league. It just, and it's always in an international break. These things take course and run with things, and people sensationalize stuff and all that kind of things.
Yeah.
From your point of view, Chels, talk of obviously academy players having to be sold off to bridge that 200 million. Talk about FFP, talk about profit and sustainability breaches, all that. Where do you see it as a Chelsea fan? Are you concerned? Are you not concerned? Do you think things will just sort themselves out and it'll be a whole hullabaloo over nothing? Do you think it is real somewhat? Where do you lie on
it? I'm not concerned about the financial things because I do firmly believe that these guys obviously have studied the books, and obviously the one thing I suppose I will give them their flowers on is that they, it's amazing that the UK government, tried to basically ruin Chelsea Football Club with the whole sanctions because of the Ukraine thing. And they couldn't find the things that these guys went in and found pretty much in a couple of months, actually, from the previous ownership with, payments to agents and stuff like that. And I think it was a good thing that they did that, because that investigation had been done, obviously, from the PFL and whatnot. So they could have easily tried to bury that, and then it could have come back to haunt us at a later date, and then thrown us even further into, turmoil from the media side of things. Again, you hit the nail on the head when it comes to every time this comes out, it's on an international break. Every time. I do not believe for 1 minute that any of these guys will let their investment be ruined by points deductions because they won't be able to meet financial fair play or criteria. That jabroni, I don't even know his name. I don't even want to know his name. That clown that was a former Man City financial advisor that was on Simon
Borson.
Yeah, I know his name. I can see it in front of me, but he's an absolute clown, arrogant little fool. To be honest with you, but he wouldn't say a bad word about City. City have done nothing wrong. It's amazing. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The point I'm making is that he only went over a broad view of looking at it literally, not taking into consideration that Infinite Athlete won't be the shirt sponsor next year. They're going to be the sleeve sponsor. Sleeve sponsor at the moment will then be the training ground sponsor. So these guys absolutely have a lot cooked up in the background in terms of sponsorship. And if those sponsorships come in and they can write that off, I'm not a financial expert, but you know yourself, you're pretty good with numbers. They can easily just write that off straight away, which gets them into the following season, next season.
I think the issue he raised on that was, one, let's say, take for argument's sake that the sponsorship is, say, 50 million for argument's sake. What he was alluding to was, first of all, there was probably sponsorship there already that might negate that amount down. So maybe the 50 million looks like 30 million. So he was making that point. But the other point he made as well is, if you bring in a new sponsor on your jersey, sleeve, training gear, whatever it is, that probably goes into that current year. So he was discussing this year and how this year finishes.
No, but the point that Lee was making, and a lot of people have been made, that it looks like it's already been done, because that Jordan deal is still being talked about as well. Even if it's only for a fourth jersey or a training ground jersey.
Yeah, well, you see, the deal can be done, but the realization of the money into your accounts probably doesn't come in until the current year when you're actually wearing the gear. I don't know how they account.
No, as far as I'm aware, if it's as far as I know, if it's done before June the 30th, it can still a big fraction of it can count off that particular year. So again, they obviously have something in the background that they've been working on. And there will be lots of academy players sold, etc., and then they will buy in the summer again. I'm not worried about that. I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, no, just my thinking of it is if it was sponsorship for the 24-25 season, which is what it would be, can you account for that in the 23-24 season?
No, I think what
accounting. I don't know. You see, I'm not knowledgeable enough on it, but
me neither. But
in the year that it's in,
but take away that alone. There will be, there's definitely ways around it, and I'm sure they will find a way around it the way they found a way around it when they first came in with the whole 8-year contracts and stuff like that. So, and that was another great point that someone made. Like, say, for example, you sold a Caicedo is a bad example, but say it was a Caicedo or something like that. Like, you haven't physically paid the 115 million. No, if you were to sell that player then at an 80 million, 80 million quid to another team, it sounds like a loss, and it is a loss over the long term, but it's not a loss over the short term, because you can demand more of that money up front. So there's definitely little ways that they can kind of get around all of that. And as you say, some of the academy boys, they'll get loan fees for a lot of them. They'll definitely sell a lot of these guys, which, look, I've no problem with. My main problem, I think, with my kind of ownership at the moment is, and it's funny because Todd Bowley, as we say, was the face of the takeover.
Yeah.
But it runs a lot. There's a lot more than him because, I mean, he's actually a minority stakeholder when it comes to how much of a say Clear Lake have. And then you're looking at the big boy, Egbali, and he's really the main problem. The media just kind of want to go against the Americans, and I get it. And, it is what it is. We've had it with FSG. We've had it with United's owners, with Arsenal's owners, so I get it. But my problem with them, especially at this moment in time, is the lack of transparency to the broader fan base. We were promised transparency, to be regular meetings, to be talked to. Again, it's gone into Roman Abramovich's silence, except Roman Abramovich was winning things. So therefore, it was like, okay, it's just Roman. When you're sitting 11th in the table and you've had the season that Pochettino has had, and you've hired an absolute career bottler as your manager. And shout out to Morris, because I tried, God bless me, to make excuses for the Poch appointment, purely off the fact that I was like, okay, he's worked well with younger players in the past. He surely learned lessons. He's learned absolutely nothing. It's clear for all to see. And I mean, I don't think he's going to get out of this with his head held high. And nor should he. It's not going to be one of these things like, well, look, that's just a poison chalice kind of thing. This is Poch's career. This has been Poch for his whole career. He was brought in to develop players. He's actually ruining players. He's not developing them. Levi Colwill agreed to sign a brand new contract in the summer when, he had a place for him there with Klopp. He had a place for him there at Brighton where he'd enjoyed success the previous season. Excellent. And for most of the season, he had him playing at left back and had Ben Chilwell, a left back, playing at left wing. He's done nothing to develop Mudryk. I think we both agree with that. We've all seen what Mudryk can do. It's funny when you look at Mudryk's stats and you match them up with Sterling's stats this season. Mudryk isn't that far behind him and has had far less game time. So he's also a serial lawyer as well as a bottle job. Because
you're probably saying there as well, like, Mudryk will be probably less inclined to rock the locker room than what Sterling would, where Sterling will create a wave of crap. You know what I mean? And I'm not
Well,
saying
but,
that's a
but there
reason to
you
play one over the other. It's not. But you could probably see
go.
from Poch's point of view as well. He doesn't need a wave of crap come from now. He's getting it anyway.
But
So
he's done that anyway. That's
yeah,
exactly it. So why not? Like, but he's a lawyer. He comes out and speaks as to how the fans are feeling. Mate, you're getting booed at the away games every flipping week. You know, you're getting booed every week when you're away, but when you're at home, you're getting nothing because you're providing nothing. This group of young players has shown that they can go toe to toe with anybody at the top level. So I do not concur. I do not concur with the message that it's these players, they're not good enough, blah blah blah. Absolute nonsense. Yes, some of them may not be, but they have shown. We matched Liverpool home and away. I
Man
mean,
City.
I know you hammered us at Anfield in the end, but there was a couple of contentious decisions and stuff like that. For the first 20 minutes of the game, we were in it, and then at the Carabao Cup, should I say? Sorry. I mean, I think Klopp had pretty much thought, right, this is not going our way, and then what does Poch do? He goes counter attack against a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
It's
The two City games for me have been the most
the
impressive.
two City games are great point. I was going to bring that up next. Yeah. I mean, they've shown that they can go toe to toe with anyone. This group of players, with or without Poch's tactics. And I think if you've got like a manager like a De Zerbi there, who's saying this is how you play and it's only one way. We don't care if we can see 3 or 4. We're going to score 5 or 6. It's like the old Galactico Real Madrid way of the late 90s. That's kind of how De Zerbi operates, but with far inferior players, and that's no disrespect to Brighton. I mean, I know there's kind of been a rolling joke about this whole, Chelsea and Brighton thing, but when you look at Paul Winstanley, this is where I go deeper here. Paul Winstanley and Lawrence Stewart, two absolutely buffoons that stealing a living. Yeah, Winstanley done a job at Brighton, but he also had Brighton are still doing the same job. So it shows that Winstanley wasn't the whole brains behind the operation. So it goes back to, this is kind of where I have a little bit of a sympathy for the board. Whoever was advising them to hire these guys is the issue. Like who was advising? The Todd Bowley never heard of Paul Winstanley or Lawrence Stewart before that. So someone was clearly advising them, you got to get Graham Potter in. You got to get this guy in. You got to get that guy in. Like, if you had a proper scouting network there, you would have said, right, actually, the guy that Brighton wanted to replace Potter and is actually far superior to Potter, his name is Roberto De Zerbi, and he's with Shakhtar Donetsk. Go get him, because now it's gonna be a case. I mean, as far as I'm aware, De Zerbi is the favourite to replace Pochettino in the summer. And apparently he said he would gladly take the job. I mean, why wouldn't he gladly take the job? You can see himself warming up to it as well by talking about Mudryk constantly, and how he can be a Ballon d'Or player. I mean, he was that type of level player under De Zerbi. Again, a manager that knows how to use players. But I'm going off topic. To answer your question, it's a love-hate thing at the moment. And it's not with Chelsea Football Club. It's a love-hate with, like, it's so easy to point the finger of blame at one direction constantly, and that's at the board. And we've seen it. We've seen it with your fans. We've seen it with United fans. We've seen it with Arsenal fans. Easy thing is to always blame the board. I'm trying to take the approach of, like, the blame has to be divvied out here, all across the board, everywhere. From the coaching staff to the. I mean, if you have that level, we have had the worst injuries of any club possibly in Europe over the last year and a half. It's insane. So how are those guys still employed? How is there not a change of, right, well, what are our physios doing? What are our club doctors doing? What are our fitness coaches doing?
We
Like,
went through it as well. Yeah,
yeah,
medical
you've
staff.
gone through it too. Yeah. So, I mean, if you and me don't do our job right, you kind of, this question, you work for yourself. I get it. But you'll ask those questions of yourself, right?
Missus will ask me.
Mrs. will ask you exactly. Like, so it baffles me. So again, it's a conundrum with Chelsea Football Club at the moment, because it's so easy to just toe the media line and go, Todd Bowley, he's the problem. Todd Bowley, Todd Bowley, Todd Bowley. Yes, he is one of the reasons, but he's one of many. And I understand if Dazzler was here, he would say it starts and ends with your board. I just agreed to that. I agreed to that. But they need to be getting better advice and looking at the people that they're talking. I mean, we're still only 2 years into this. Like, it's very new. It's in its infancy. You know what I mean? That's a good point there. Yeah, I've seen that the Strasbourg Ultras are trying to team up with the Chelsea Ultras as well to kind of have a protest against them. And you know what? You saw, like, let's not forget, take out my blue tinted glasses here. Noel, you agreed with me at the time, and you will agree with me now. The Chelsea fans shut that Super League down at that time. Outside Stamford Bridge, where Petr Cech had to come out and actually just say, okay, like, these lads don't know what they're in for if it does keep going the way it's going. Exactly. And they don't come out. I'm telling you, I mean, there will be riots, and they won't stand for it. I mean, Pochettino was just one conundrum, but things got to change very, very quickly.
Yeah, do you know what it is? I think as well with what Chelsea's had to endure over the last few years and the collapse of Roman Abramovich and the upheaval at the club and stuff like that. You're not going to pull the wool over Chelsea's fans' eyes too easy now.
No.
They're quite an educated fan base in terms of even financials and structure and stuff like that and all. So that element has changed a lot.
And quite a defensive fan base now. You know that, like, we've had to be very defensive over the years because of the media, and you know this. Yeah. You kind of have it with Liverpool, and that type of fan base, like your own, when they feel kind of that they've only got themselves, like that kind of pack mentality, they'll go into business for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't, that kind of dedication to the cause when you feel like you're being wronged can be huge. Absolutely. Let's change it up a little bit and we'll take a little bit of wrestling.
Yeah. Give me heart a rest, will you?
Yeah, Romy one can obviously say, glad we never voted for the Super League. 100%.
I have to let the dog out there.
Wrestling, I've a couple of bits for you here. One is this. Obviously, you've seen The Rock back and you've been following it, and clearly he doesn't have to follow PG. But a memo was issued to the roster this week reminding them that their rating is PG and to adhere to the PG guidelines. And some of them weren't too happy in relation to how loose The Rock's situation is compared to theirs. Thoughts?
Well, I mean, most of the F-bombs and stuff like that The Rock has dropped has been on his own personal channel, so that's his own personal business. He can do that. I know he's representing WWE when he's doing it, but at the same time, it's not being broadcast on a televised, event or on a particular network. So I think that expels that straight away. I think he's been quite. He's borderline when he's on SmackDown and stuff like that, but he's not dropping F-bombs and shit bombs and all that kind of stuff. So, I think the roster should get in line and realize who the final boss is on this one.
Yeah, I think my thoughts on it were that, like, you have to have some sort of dynamic within your roster as well. So obviously, you've Cody playing his part in this whole thing. So you have to have The Rock playing his part, and it has to elevate at a certain level. So you can't have The Rock operating the same as Cody, or it doesn't work. Or you can't have both those boys operating at the same level as maybe the storyline and the IC belt and how that all unfolds. So I suppose where I'm coming from is probably you you can't have like 10 rocks on the roster. There was only
No.
one Stone Cold Steve Austin during the Attitude Era. There wasn't 4 of them. So everyone kind of knew what folded from where and how it all took its place. And I think this is probably the same situation. But
Good.
I can also see, probably from a roster's point of view as well, that if you're there on the roster and you're trying to get over the best you can, it's very difficult when you're operating within the PG guidelines to really sell your soul in there like a heel and stuff like that and really get yourself to where you want to be. And then you're probably looking out at the ring there. Now, I think Drew, if you think about it, has done a fabulous job over the last few months with his social media and all. And he's kind of skirted it a little bit as well. But I can also see that, like, if you're struggling to get yourself to where you want to be and you're operating within the guidelines, and then a guy like The Rock, who's a huge megastar, of course, comes in and just goes, shag your PG. This is what I'm gonna do. You know what I mean? It's I can see where there would be a little bit of like
he has and he hasn't. I mean, that's the problem. Like, that's the problem with all these little. Again, I'm going to use the snowflakes again. You didn't have this back in the day. Like, you get yourself over, and if you're not articulate enough to get yourself over, where you're just touching the boundaries, because you will get yourself over, even if you're pushing the boundaries just that little bit, if the crowd reacts. Do you know what I mean? I don't.
Get off my TV and make 232.
He's winding us up. But yeah, no, like, and I mean, The Rock has done it. He's done it in the past. He's got himself over in tricky situations. He did it. So instead of these people moaning, no, I want to go to HR and I want to talk to HR, human resources has to be the worst invention of all time. And that's just my 2 cents. It's ridiculous. They're overpaid, zealot idiots, mostly Zionists as well, fucking going through their bullshit ticking. And then you go in half the time when you go to your own job and you go to HR, most of the time they're on Facebook sitting drinking crumpets and drinking coffee and eating crumpets. Get the hell out of here, will you? Listen, put your tail between your legs, go and learn how to read a book, and you might find something that's called articulation. And then you might be able to use that little moany fucking thoughts that are in your brain that you want to go to the office with, and you might be able to find that you're able to articulate really good promos.
Use your time better.
And use your time better. Get out of the, get off TikTok, get off Instagram, and look at yourself in the mirror with your phone, record yourself, and guess what? Come up with deadly promos the way The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin used to do. And guess what? They weren't written for them. Get out of here. That's all I got to say about that.
One of the issues, one of the topics that I brought up last night, I seen it on Twitter, I brought it up on last night's Pro Wrestling Weekly show, was this one. And you being a big music guy, of course, I said I'd have to get you on to talk about this. Your favorite WrestleMania music performance. And there's been so many over the years, of course. But if you had to pick one, what's the one that stands out for you? What's that one that you kind of always go back to? That one that got you going, got that goosebumps on the arm, fired you up for that match?
I mean, I'm biased. Thank you. Yeah, when you know how to work.
I ask the right questions, don't I?
You do. You know how to get me going, and I know how to answer. I think Dazzler will be proud of that one. Shout out to Dazzler.
You'll be shocked at Dazzler's choice. He told me it today. He was in with me today because he never told me last night.
Right. Well, I'm definitely going with as a number one. I'm going to be a bit cheeky here. I'm going to go with a number one and a number two. But in that particular order. So I'm not cheating. So I'm saying in that particular order. I'm going to go with Motorhead and Lemmy because I'm just, I'm a rocker and a roller. And seeing Motorhead, play the game out, it's like, yes, that's what you want. But by the same token, I'm also a big Flow Rider fan. lot of people are always surprised by this, that I'm actually a Flowrider fan. My brothers can't get their head around it. Rachel can't get her head around it. I'm actually a Motorhead fan, or a Flowrider fan. So I did like Flowrider performing at WrestleMania as well. So I'd go 1 and 2, Lemmy and Motorhead and Flowrider.
Very good. Darren's as well.
Darren, what's Darren's first?
Darren went with Machine Gun Kelly and Flowrider.
He would go for Machine Gun Kelly, though, wouldn't he? Darren's Dazzler's a Pop-Tart.
Yeah. He's at a big shout
he likes Ed Sheeran.
He's probably not listening, but he's at Neon tonight in the Trey Arena.
Neon, what's that now?
He's like I wasn't aware of him, but Darren said he's hugely famous. He's kind of like Usher.
Well, I mean, if he's playing the Trey Arena, then he would be.
Yeah, he's kind of like Usher. It's sold out as far as I know.
So he's like Usher. See, yeah. Dazzler, pussy. It's obviously Dazzler be there holding his little red rose at the front of the stage.
Only one Kenobi's in. I like this guy. He's a Motorhead fan like me.
I know.
Kelly.
I have to say, I love Dazzler. You know that. He knows that. He knows I'm fucking with him.
100%.
Neon.
Yeah, so I thought I'd get your thoughts on it. It's a good topic to come up. Mania 40 card. What's your thoughts?
I mean, it's looking strong, isn't it? Yeah, like, are you asking me just in terms of the whole card or just the standouts?
Just in terms in general of the card. You can give me your standouts if you want, or let me know how you feel. Cody and The Rock and all this stuff is going to go. Whatever you.
I think there's something definitely going to be interesting on night one with Rollins and Drew, and dare I say, one CM Punk. I'm looking forward to seeing Logan Paul getting the head kicked off him. I think he's going to get stiffened up a little bit for the crack. Even though I like him as a worker, he can go. That's not like, it's not a Bad Bunny situation. I actually rate Logan Paul. I just think it's going to be fun. And when I say stiffened up, I mean in a work sense. I think that the boys they'll have to kind of pander to the crowd. A little hidden gem on that there, I think, is AJ and LA Knight. I think that's going to be a very good match. And then Rhea and Becky, Jesus, that's going to be something.
Over to the book.
I'm looking at night 2 there. Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, the brothers, man, the Usos is going to be very good. I just think it's actually stacked all the way through. I just wish Sami Zayn wasn't on the card. I'm just over him. Like, bring someone up.
Are you over him in terms of the match that he's positioned into, or are you over him full stop?
Everything. Just bores me. Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned it. I kind of felt that it was kind of, if a title change happened there, it would be quite weak for me.
It would be. It'd be like a little kiss and make up from the previous year just to appease certain demographic of fans. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I kind of felt with the journey that Gunther's on and how he's brought that prestige back to the IC belt.
Yeah.
And it really is the gatekeeper belt again for the World Championship. 100%. And it's now, for me at the moment, looking into WWE, it's the most prestigious belt there at the moment, I think.
Well, I mean, it's definitely something that, if he was to drop that down the line to, say, an LA Knight, it was really kind of just almost there. Then you're going, okay, this is actually the gatekeeper belt. But I think the Sami Zayn thing there now. And listen, I rate Sami as a worker and all, so in no way am I saying that he can't go. But like, you have to remember, we had this conversation in the group chat the other week, and we were both in agreement. I think it was actually this week, was it? Where like Sami was also put into a storyline where he couldn't really fail with it. Do you know what I mean? There was nothing for him to lose and everything to gain. But I mean, a little bit of comedic bites here, and as you said, tickling the boys' arms and making them laugh, that's not enough to get you to the dance, in my opinion, and then run with it. Because we've seen how it worked out for Daniel Bryan. Yeah, we can say that the booking wasn't great for Daniel Bryan, blah, blah, blah. But he wasn't a world champ, you know? He really wasn't. Not in that big a company when you've got giants there. You know, AJ was able to pull it off. I know he's of similar stature, but AJ is a little bit different. AJ has charisma without even needing to speak. You know, there's just a certain level. There's certain words that aren't spoken that define charisma. That doesn't always necessarily mean that you're the best promo. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, Romy One Kenobi and Jacob Fatu, Umaga's son, and Tama Tonga may be making an appearance at WrestleMania. And you see one of them showing up. See
Possibly.
that these boys getting involved in the bloodline stuff.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, in one way or another, yeah. Maybe not that particular, but yeah, you could. I mean, stranger things have happened.
R-Truth to win the tag belts. His mum will be celebrating for weeks. Romy One Kenobi, he was telling us last night his mum's a huge R-Truth fan.
How can you not be?
Absolutely.
But hey, why don't we throw R-Truth? Why doesn't R-Truth get a title shot? He's as funny as anyone.
Yeah. Again,
you see my point, though. You see my point?
Yeah, absolutely. It can't be really, especially when you're dealing with a person like Gunther. You can't be really at a comedic level about this. It can't be. Has to be serious. Like, you know, like a Sheamus or a Drew or whatever it is. You know?
Yeah.
Drew to win against Seth, then Priest cashes in, ruining William Wallace's WrestleMania moment again. Oh, not. I wouldn't be upset about seeing a cash in, but I kind of want Drew to get that proper moment. You?
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
absolutely. Ian, I'll bring you in shortly because I know Ian wants to come in because he's been missing you. He's been advocating for you, getting you back and stuff like that.
Who wants to come in?
Ian, you come back.
He wants to finally talk to me.
You come in a few minutes. Yeah, boxing. Let's change it up. Obviously we had Fury versus Ngannou, which was strange to say the least. And then we had the announcement of the Usyk fight, and then the cut over the eye. So it's being delayed till May 15th. But Joshua's been keeping busy. Joshua stepped in.
A well worked plan, I might say, as well, with the cut over the eye. Yeah.
Timely.
Very, very good. Very good. Yes.
You're a huge boxing fan.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how you see things unfolding in this area. We obviously seen Joshua go in there and do a heck of a number on Ngannou. I mean, now Ngannou's next fight is actually back in MMA. It's not in boxing. What do you read from that? Do you read that the fight with Ngannou and Fury was more about Fury not taking it serious and training for it? Or do you reckon, because you look at the Joshua fight and he looked way out of his depth, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, we'll park the Tyson Paul one, you know, because that's a conversation in its own right. Yeah, I mean, I you know me, be very hard pressed to find a bigger boxing fan than me. And I'll watch boxing tonight. Now I'm watching a couple of cards over in the States. With Fury, even at the time, I was like, okay, he's taking him lightly. But because of the whole furore around Ngannou and how hard he hits, and you know, had never been put down, you were thinking, right, this would be I suppose interesting if anything. When I saw the fight unfold, I do think Fury did prep well for it. Like, I think he trained. However, I don't think he'd done his tactics, because how do you analyze tactics for a guy that's never been in the ring before? Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you? So in a lot of ways, Fury kind of let himself do his own slaughter, without knowing that was the case. And obviously Ngannou had been working with Mike Tyson and stuff like that, and getting advice from some top coaches. I know he had conversations with Freddie Roach and stuff like that. So it was a win-win for Ngannou in that sense. Once he didn't get knocked out, once he could go the distance, I think that was really what they could hope for. Turned out that he actually won the fight. I think we can all agree with that. That it was a Saudi job trying to save face to make sure that the Fury Usyk thing still went ahead. Because he definitely lost the fight, in my opinion, not by a landslide, the way some people said. I watched that fight twice. I always tend to, I told you this before, and you know I do this, I tend to watch the fight live for just to enjoy it, and then I'll watch it back again the next day to dissect it. Yeah, and I'll usually do that. I'll pause in between rounds, especially when I was doing the podcast, and just purely to get the to get a real honest opinion on it, because you know yourself, on emotions you can go, oh, he lost, and then you look back and you go, yeah, I suppose. But I do think there was he won by a couple of points. However, Anthony Joshua, a man that's under immense pressure. I mean, he's still, in my opinion, he still is the biggest draw in boxing. I think once his name is on the card, it doesn't matter where Joshua goes, it's always sold out. He has his core group of fans, and then he has his haters. He's one of those people that is just, I know people will probably argue with me saying that they think Fury's the biggest draw. No, I think Joshua is definitely the biggest draw. I think the numbers show that. I think you probably agree with me there.
And took on a very dangerous fight potentially on paper.
I mean, this is the man with the weak chin. He's been chinned by Ortiz, beaten twice by Usyk, and Usyk said it. He goes, he could have knocked him out, and a lot of people asked Usyk, why didn't you go for the kill on Joshua? And Usyk, to his credit, said, like, he goes, you guys, why is always hungry for blood? Like, the man deserves to go home to his family. I knew I was winning. I knew I had him. Why do I need to hurt him anymore? Which I thought was quite admirable. And I think Usyk is that kind of guy, to be honest with you. But I had to commend, I'm no Joshua fan, as you know. But I had to commend Joshua. He got his tactics absolutely spot on. And he showed Ngannou that he was way out of his depth. Ngannou looked amateur. And I think it does really show that punches in MMA and punching in boxing are two different worlds, man. They really, really are. I mean, Joe Rogan has said it in the past. Even McGregor has said it. There's no comparison when you get hit with a jab, even in MMA and boxing. And it's not to say that the guys in MMA can't hit hard. It's just because it's different postures. Within the confines and the rules of a boxing ring, you're set up to do one thing, and you got to have your legs planted in there, but also be light on your feet at the same time. So, I would imagine for an MMA fighter, it would be it'd be very easy to kind of, in your first time or the second time, to maybe kind of loosen up on the legs a bit and kind of dance on your feet a little bit more and not be planted as much, but then not to be kind of planted so much that you're going to walk onto a right hand the way Ngannou did, because good Lord, man, like in the first two rounds, I mean, I'm sure we were talking about it, like it was baffling, wasn't it?
Yeah, you could see it in his face from the first one. He was he was shocked that he probably never felt being hit like that before with that kind of power. And he knew,
and it was a right straight as well.
Yeah, and you could see them for the rest of the fight, the rest of the round, and the next round. It was kind of like he was in such shock. There was nearly a level of fear, maybe, which is hard to say a level of fear when it comes to Ngannou. But if you're smacked in the face like that early on and rocked, there's a level of protectionism that kicks in.
And that's
I think he realized that he was in the wrong place.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, just to close on that, I think that's where he realized he was out of his depth, because there was no amount of corner talk that was going to get him out of that zone. No. Because a smart fighter would have went in and said, right, I'm going to double up. I'm going to go Tyson on it and just have the fists up and maybe take a bit of a barrage just to see if I can take one or two of these and let him maybe punch himself out a little bit so I can build myself back up in the later rounds. But it was just like, you're 100% right. I mean, I can't add anything to what you said. It was just, there was a look of shock on his face. And I think, like, I mean, Joshua is a hard hitter as well. Like, don't forget, Joshua was a 6'7" and he's a fucking beast, you know. But to go to Usyk and Fury, if that's where you want to go next, I mean, I'm looking forward to this fight. This is a fight that intrigues me to no end because I think that was a wake up call for Fury. That like, okay, right, I need to take this seriously. I do think Fury, he's a chancer. You know, good old Irish term. I think the cut over the eye was let's just say very well timed, and very well filmed as well. If you know what I mean.
The director's cut.
Yeah. So, but I'm gonna say it here, and you can come back at me when the fight's over because it's next month, isn't it?
May 15th or something.
May 15th. So we'll probably do a show closer to the time on it, I'd imagine. But I do think Usyk beats him personally. I just think he's too. You know, Fury's elusive, and he can try and lean on him and all that stuff, and that's all well and good. But Usyk he's also a crafty little fella. I'm gonna say little fella, like he's 6'3" and built like a brick house. But I mean, a little fella when it comes to the height of Fury. But no, I think I do. I suspect he wins on points over 12 rounds.
Yeah, interesting. Ushain's in. Hi, Noel. Just got done jiu-jitsu sparring. Fair play. It's mad. OTT. Dolph Ziggler for Scrapper Mania is coming to our shores. For the OTT. Interesting. I'll bring Ian in here. Ian's waiting out back. What's up, brother?
How's it going? What's up?
How are you?
The shades and all. Look at that.
Huh?
He's got the shades on and everything.
Magic. These are the magic shades.
We call you Richie Shades or Rico Shades, like the porn star.
In the chat, Throne shade.
It gives me confidence.
I have to ask Ian here. Ian Kelly. Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. You were furious at this the other day when it was announced.
Yeah, it was.
Both men are going to get.
This will be a fix. A fixed fight. This week.
Ian, give us your thoughts, Ian Kelly.
No, I don't think there's any fixing it at all. I think
it'll be a fix.
I think it's very much legit, all right. It's just you've got one fucking weasel, excuse my language. We're later in the podcast there, Noel. I studied the algorithm. You're all right once it's later in the podcast. Just you leave the F-bombs till later. I think it's a show on it's a show on Jake Paul's nonsense that he comes out with, that he wants to be taken seriously as a real boxer and blah blah blah. You're fighting a guy who's pushing 60. You probably saw the cane and thought, I've got this guy. However, I've been following Tyson's videos very closely recently, and he looks like an animal. And I think Jake Paul really is in over his head. And there's no way. The problem with this fight is that Jake Paul looks bad either way. He either beats a 60-year-old man, and then you're like, you're beating a 60-year-old man who happens to be one of everybody's favorite fighters of all time and a legend. And, you know, that's that part of it. Or you get knocked out by a 60-year-old man who is past his prime. So I mean, it's a lose. Now, I don't think Jake Paul has a soul, because I think him and his brother sold whatever was in their belly to Disney a long time ago. We won't get into that. So I don't think there's any empathy or souls there for them to lose. But I do firmly concur with the likes of Joe Rogan and the Cobra, Carl Froch, and basically everyone in the whole community. I've actually never seen the boxing community and the MMA community come together in unison as one on this subject. It's, for me, I think Tyson is going to spark him. I just think we've always heard it, Niall. The power is the last thing to go. And Jake Paul likes to get in there and try and mess around, and I think Tyson is crafty. It's a 6-round fight as well, which is, perfect. For Mike, if I wanted to be a real see you next Tuesday, I'd have been like, right, let's do it over 8 rounds, and then hopefully win on points. But then again, even if you beat a Mike Tyson on points, are you a winner? You ran around the ring for a while. So I don't know. I think it's a crock.
I suppose there's a couple of sides to this. One is they're both going to make absolute bank on it, because we know everyone's going to watch it.
Oh well, it's on Netflix anyway. It's on Netflix. Yeah. It's on Netflix. So it's they've definitely had a set agreement. I'm sure Mike has said I'll do it for 500 million or whatever.
If it ain't going to be a fix, Mike Tyson will probably go old school on your man Jake Paul.
I think the risk here is that Tyson goes in and gives a great account of himself and sparks out Jake, and then kind of believes that he's back again or something like that, and we get follow-on fights.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think Tyson's, like, because I watch his podcasts fairly regularly. Like, I think he just feels that he's going in to do this for boxing and getting paid for it. Yeah. In his mind, he's like, I'm just going to shut this lad up, because he actually liked him at the start.
Yeah.
So I think he feels, right, I need to come in and save boxing by sparking this idiot out. And then that's it. And I think then you might see him going back to doing exhibitions with the likes of, he done one with my boy Roy Jones Jr. there a couple of years ago. And he looked very good in it as well, Noel, remember? I mean, remember Roy Jones? Because I said to you, I think Roy beats him all day. And then Roy was like, Jesus Christ, even my arms were hurting. And like Roy had been far more active. And I was listening to an interesting piece there the other day. I read an interesting piece, should I say. Roy Jones said that, like, he had been active up to a year before that fight and was fighting younger lads. Now, Roy was one of those guys that just couldn't get out and could never reclaim his prime. Because in his day, Roy Jones Jr., for anyone who hasn't seen him, there's not many better boxers than him. But he said that, unbelievable. But he said with Tyson, like, he said, like, even when he hit me on the arms, it was like fucking cinder block hitting you. Do you know what I mean?
I think the thing about the fight is,
I don't think it was, sorry, Romeo Kenobi. No, I never said it was good. It was an exhibition, and nobody was meant to get hurt. And the whole premise of that was that nobody was meant to get hurt. However, but there are two pensioners that would kick the shite out of you and me and everyone in this chat put together. So
I'd love to have a fight like that over that kind of bowl of
absolutely.
Did it already happen, or is it happening?
No, that's happening in July.
July, yeah, jeez.
Oh, yeah. It's May for Fury.
It's still
was happening with Joshua, and then it's Ngannou's going off the fight back in MMA.
Sidetracked.
And then July then for Jake Paul versus Tyson. It's going to be really, really interesting to see.
They'll end that round too.
The funny thing about it is,
like that fight there. What was it? What was that one? Frank. That was back in '95. Frank Brownell and Tyson. Do you remember that? It was on the Sky second way round 2, and it was over.
Yeah, it was Tyson's return after being in prison. Yeah.
This is going to I know as much as people kind of it's not their flavor and they don't want it to happen, and there's varying different reasons on those kind of things, but people are still going to watch.
Well, I'm going to watch. I can moan about it and piss and moan about it. Like, I will watch. I mean, are you telling me that I don't want to watch Mike Tyson do a ring walk and seeing the potential of Jake Paul getting sparked out by Mike Tyson? I mean, everyone's going to watch it for that very reason. So everyone should put their morals down for a moment, because like all this talk of like, oh, what if he hurts Mike? No, he's not going to hurt Mike that bad that Mike won't remember what's happening the next day. Mike will go and take a bit of DMT and be grand, have a little smoke, and yeah, but probably bring Ric Flair on the show and talk about the whole event, you know.
And he'd be lighting it with $100 bills.
Yeah, and damn, and wouldn't you? But no, I think it is a farce, but I think the farce is from Jake Paul's side. I mean, he's the guy that doesn't come out looking good in this, and I think promoters like Eddie Hearn and all that will be like, what do you want to do? Now, look, make no mistake about it, regardless of what you think, whether you love him, whether you hate him, boxing promoters can come out and go, this is a farce, this is a joke, Jake Paul's a joke. You telling me that Oscar De La Hoya or Eddie Hearn or whoever it may be, Sheikh Al Jibibabwe, whatever the flip his name is, I'm doing all right, Niall. I've only dropped 2 actual ones tonight. I'm doing all right. I'm trying. But you're telling me they're going to go, no, you've ruined boxing. You haven't been a good ambassador for the sport. So, no, we don't want to make 200 million from you. What? Of course you can, Jake. Come on in, son. Let's have that fight with Canelo. Let's get that McGregor fight finally. So it's always going to be a thing. He's the ultimate antagonist, and make no mistake about it. He is a genius heel. And I mean, they're 2 kids with no soul. Anyways, I said their daddy sold their soul to Disney long ago. And you know, for those who know. But Jake Paul will be, and that's it. Like, case in point, there you go. Kenobi, spot on. He's fought over the hill bums, and guess what? People will still tune in to fight and watch more UFC bums. He'll come out and say, I want to be taken seriously as a fighter. You know, I beat Nate Diaz, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, he lost against, like, a glorified porn star, like a softcore porn star in the Fury Jr., you know? Like, that. I mean, that's what that Love Island is, basically softcore porn. Like, Tommy Fury is an absolute joke in the boxing world. You know, he has 4 and 5 round fights against Polish ex-veterans, ex-junkies, and he barely gets through it. So, you know, it's which family is worse, the Furies or the Pauls? I mean, they're both steel and copper, if you know what I mean.
So different shades of grey, as they say.
Exactly.
Different shades of grey. The one thing I do tip my hat to these boys in terms of promotion and promoting stuff and generating wealth, they're second to none. Second to none in terms of the way they do that.
Can you imagine the press conferences? Like the build up is going to be like something you've never seen.
Yeah.
It feels like something that should be on WrestleMania. You know.
Listen, you know, we've had the brawl for all. We've had brawl for all at WrestleMania. We do not need any more of that.
Speaking about things being a fix, you know, best keep to Netflix.
Listen, I'm quite happy for Jake Paul to hire Anfield if he's going to throw a load of money into our coffers and buy another player with it or something like that. I'm all in.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Not a problem.
5 months in, it's my beard. Look at that. Looks like a beast.
Did you stick that on before you come on, or what's the crack with that?
We just recorded an episode.
January, I think it was mid-January.
You look like you're getting ready for a load of essays to come over there. And there's a deal about to go down or something. What's
just came out of the swamp after shooting a load of ducks or geese or something.
Ducks? Do you have the duck whistle there?
Maybe nose ringing there, John.
Either that or you just parked a 40-foot lorry. Ice road truckers or something like that.
To be fair, Noel, I was wearing a shirt like that in work all day today, so...
Slaves. The wife took the slaves off.
Romy One Kenobi. Young Eric Rome with the beard. Red beard. Eric Red.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, listen, lads. I'll tell you. That was random.
A friend of mine is the image of what's his face, Brody Lee. He works in the centre. So when Blondis see how far they can go with it, and then we're gonna take a selfie there.
Never know. Might get a match.
A cue ball and a beard. It's a great combination.
That's it. Hard to believe it.
A bearded cue ball. There we go. Absolutely. Well, listen, lads, a pleasure as always having you on. Ian, appreciate you coming on as always.
Sorry for hounding you, anyone.
I know, I'm gonna have to ban you.
You know what it is? It's the Dynamo.
I'm getting used to this.
You wanted to finally come on with the Dynamo. And
listen, tell you, it's your line. You say the line. It's your line. I'm not saying anymore. You say it.
I said it to him. I said it to him earlier before we went on. I said, "You've been hounding me as to when Ian's coming back podcast." Asks me every week when you're coming back podcast.
But you know what? The funny thing about it is, there's an old saying: you should never meet your heroes unless it's a Dynamo. And on that note,
before we finish, hang on, don't drop it yet. Romy One Kenobi's in with another one. What did you think of Goldberg's comments in relation to Asuka?
Oof, yeah. I actually thought you were going to bring that up, Noel. That's a funny. I mean, I have another promo for you. Goldberg, right? I mean, can you be more of a jabroni than Goldberg when you think about it, right? So not only did you ruin the greatest career of the best professional wrestler of all time, you gave him post-concussion syndrome, but you also gave yourself post-concussion syndrome by bouncing that big mallet head off the door that many times, because you're coming out with absolute nonsense on the daily every time he's talked to. He basically, he goes, it's some Asian girl they're giving a streak to. That was his exact comment. Asuka. He couldn't say her name properly. And I was like, right, now there's a man who deserves post-concussion syndrome because you did it to yourself. Like, no one did that to you.
What do they normally say? How do you end up with CTE from dropping other people on their head?
You know what I mean? Now, listen, I've dropped myself on my head many a time, but not in a ring. So it's just been unfortunate. Do
you remember in what was that? All Japan, New Japan back in the day?
Romy One Kenobi knows what's up.
Absolutely. What did you think of Hardy on Raw?
What was it? Scott Steiner, he dropped a man on his head in what was it? I think it was in New Japan. He done that kind of like a suplex, then he turned into like a tombstone or something. Back in the day, it was whatever the tag match was. Sure, they get away with that in Japan.
I'd say.
But just to go back to the Goldberg thing, like. Yeah, people just need to stop interviewing. People need to stop interviewing this idiot. Like, I mean, he's an asshole. He clearly doesn't have any regret what he done with Brett. I mean, I think Brett has every right to be bitter still, and it's not based on the fact. I think it's based on the fact that he feels that the apology was never sincere, and it doesn't come across as sincere now when he talks about it. Goldberg, it's like, oh, these things happen. No, these things happen when you're shit. Yeah, absolutely, but own it. You know, this isn't, you know, the gobbledygooker that that you sparked. Like, this is someone that probably could have went back to WWE at some point and had run-ins with The Rock and Austin again and stuff like that. So, you know, I just hope Bill Goldberg suffers an awful cold and has the sniffles for 2 weeks, and he can't, you know, it's just very uncomfortable for 2 weeks. That's as far as the extent of the bad things that I wish on Goldberg, because, you know, you can't be wishing bad things on people. You know, a bad cold for 2 weeks. You know, good dose of man flu, and that'll do me.
Really well. Well, anyone who's watched that podcast would know your feelings on Bill Goldberg.
That has to be in quotes, doesn't it? I hope you suffer a cold for 2 weeks. We have to get a T-shirt made of that. Do you want to know how much I hate you? I hope you get a cold for 2 weeks.
Goldberg popped up. That'll be something.
But no,
I think he'd regret it.
Get him on the shelf.
Oh, I think Goldberg wouldn't be able to hang with me verbally anyway, that's for sure. And I mean, I'm here in Arklow, so I mean, it's not like he's going to knock at my door. And look, if there is a knock at the door after 12 o'clock, I know it's just good old Bill has headbutted the door, because it's what he does. I'll be like, don't worry about it, baby. It's grand. It's just old Bill trying to juice himself up again. He has that old CTE. It's grand. And now he's got a dose of the sniffles. He go home and wrap himself in a cotton blanket later.
As long as it's not the old Bill.
Well, yeah, but that's a different conversation. Yeah, that's when you're out the gap.
Absolutely. Well, listen, folks, if you could subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification button, and drop a like to the video. It's been a pleasure doing this bag. Ian, you want to take us home?
Okay. For Ian the Dynamo Kelly, for Ian Richie Hodge, for Niall, the host with the most, the shopkeeper, and your hero and mine, and for the upper tier, we are over and